and being there and being ready. But excited for the win, while understanding that it's still early in conference play. We needed this win, and we've got another tough team coming in on Tuesday, and we're just going to focus on our process heading into the next game.
You mentioned everybody stepping up. How encouraging to do all that without Zeb being able.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, we all feel for Zeb. Zeb will be coming back here soon, hopefully in the next game. We're not sure yet. That'll depend on how his progress goes over the next couple of days, but he is doing better, which is a good thing, a positive thing. But really proud of the guys. Jay Nell stepped up in a big way. Joe Bam was back to being Joe Bam. And, I thought, Sean and Max were very good. Toby was great off the bench, for us tonight, and Firm as well. I think, both of those guys, did a really nice job at the rim of protecting our basket.
Feel real good for a guy like Joe. I mean, everything he's been through to be able to show what you all knew he could do. Yeah,
there's no question about it. Joe's a great person, and he's had a couple of tough games in a row, and for him to come back like that tonight was great for all of us to see.
Over the last 3 games, you guys obviously won, and during that stretch, you held teams 58.7 points per game defensively. So what was the message to the team heading into what would have been the George Mason game?
I think we'd lost our way a little bit defensively, and so that happens, during the season. Sometimes, teams get the best of you, and sometimes it could be a one-off, where it's just, teams are just extremely hot. It's a weird game. I don't think that was necessarily the case. St. Bonaventure came in here and played really, really well. George Washington can really score the ball. They're one of the better offensive teams in our conference, and they can play in the high 80s and really put pressure on you to keep up. But I think after going back and watching the film with the team and with our staff, we felt like, we knew we could do better, right, than we did. And it's just a matter of showing that to the team and making sure that we do it. And it's not on anybody else, it's on us. That's what I told the team, before the game. This is not about, nobody else can do this for us, right? We haven't played our best basketball in Siegel yet, right? And we have to do it. And I think, the guys did a really nice job of setting the tone, here on our home court. It's such a great home court. We want it to continue to be that, where it's just miserable for the other team to come in here. But defense is a big part of that, right? And, I think our guys committed to one another that, we might lose, but it's not going to be because we're not defending and not trying to give the best possible effort, connected effort on that side of the ball.
You mentioned Toby and Firm's rim protecting presence. Does that enable everybody else to close out a little more aggressively and defend the three-point line better?
Yeah, there's no question, but there's a danger in that too. If you're always running over there to block a shot, well, who are you leaving? Right, you're leaving a guy near the rim that's pretty big usually, most times, right? That can do some damage as well, if you don't block the shot. And so it's something that we have to do. We have to make sure that we're guarding our rim more efficiently. And Toby certainly is a big part of that. Firm's a big part of that. When we get in those emergency situations where the ball is at the rim, and sometimes we were waiting. Toby was waiting just to go get it, as opposed to being there early, because now all of a sudden, if he leaves, now I can help him and block out, the big guy. We were getting caught in some rotational things, in the first couple of games, and been better since.
Coach, can you describe what you saw in Max Scholga against Jimerson? I mean, just locked in.
Yeah, it's something, Robbie asked me that, and Rodney asked me that, on the radio. It's just, I've seen it before. Those that have coached him, at Utah State have seen that type of defensive effort. He guarded one of the kids that plays for the Warriors now from Santa Clara and early in the season last year, and did a phenomenal job on him. He's capable of it when Max is focused on defense and, is accepting of a challenge like that. He's had several games like that in a row. He guarded the kid from Mason, 13, in that game, and did a really nice job. So he's understanding now. It's like, okay, my team needs me to do this, but he's not the only one, right? they're all in that mindset right now. Like we've got to defend at a high level and make it hard on our opponent.
What were some key takeaways from today's game and performance that you want to take going into next week's game?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the confidence at home, right? You know, the way that our guys played. You know, I thought our guys were having fun out there and playing, you know, a really balanced game, you know, on both sides of the ball. When we were able to get stops, we were able to run. And you saw some nice plays in transition that we want to continue to try to replicate. There was some good execution by our guys on both sides. You know, taking care of our ball, you know, is always something that we want to aspire to do each and every game that we play. But, you know, more than anything, we want to win, right? I mean, I think ultimately you're not going to play perfectly, right? You know, you want to celebrate the wins that you have, and certainly this is one, you know, that we want to celebrate.
Hargrove had their first 8 points. He finished with 10. What did you guys switch up on him? Was it Michael Bell guarding him a lot?
Bell guarded him, Kwani guarded him, Sean guarded him at times. We started switching. You know, they went with a smaller lineup, and so we were forced to go into our switching defense when they would take 3 out or the big kid out, you know, and play smaller. And I thought, you know, because then what happens is everybody's guarding them, you know, at that point when they're setting ball screens and we're forced to switch. But, yeah, I thought the guys did a nice job, you know, just kind of being there. He's a good player. He's a great kid. You know, we got a chance to know him when my son and I at the Final Four and my wife were there, and he was the other recipient of one of the mental health awards. And he's just a great guy. And I'll always be pulling for him. And also his father, I had a chance to meet his father, you know, while we were there too. And just a good family.
You mentioned the lineup shakeup tonight with Zeb being out and everything. What did you see from the way that lineup came out of the gate?
Yeah, I thought they did a nice job. You know, Jaylen stepped right in. I mean, didn't have a second thought about that. He's been big for us this year. And just inserted him right away, you know, when we knew that Zeb was going to be out, and prepped with him in that starter's role. And you know, I thought Jaylen did a great job. You know, he's up for whatever we need him to do, and that's part of this. The beauty of this team is that, you know, we need everyone, and you know, I think he's certainly, you know, committed, as are all the other guys, you know, to doing their best for VCU.
You mentioned Connor, and you know that question is coming. How cool was that moment when he checks in there?
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, that was neat. He's been in there before. You know, he's always itching to get a basket. You know, and that's not easy to do when you're playing at this high level. And but you know, it's just great to see him out there. It's fun for the players. I'm sure fun for the fans, and fun for him. You know, like guys in his role. You know, they don't. You know, they're always in the practices and doing that, but. You know, playing in the game is not something that happens very often, so it's pretty cool.
Coach, you have 4 players with double digits tonight. Can you talk about the work ethic and practice to have an outcome like this?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we have to do every time we go in the gym, right? And I think this team is established long ago, you know, in the summer, you know, that they want to be their best, right? And in order to be your best, you have to work at it, and it doesn't matter what you're trying to attack in life. You know, if you don't put in the work, you're not going to get the results that you want. And so we have a saying, and that's in the BDC, huge work you do in the dark will reveal itself in the light. And so that's something that we hammer home with our guys every single day, and they do it on their own too, because they love the game. You know, they love to play this game, and so they're willing to put in the extra hours and time that it takes to be successful.
Coach, Sean mentioned like a team meeting after the GW game. Can you talk to that at all? What was discussed?
Yeah, it was a long meeting, you know, where we just had, you know, sometimes teams have to have that, and sometimes it's with coaches, sometimes it's not. This one was, and you know, I think we had to make sure that everyone understood, like, this isn't going to happen if we all don't commit to this, right? Like what had just happened was not okay. Right, we just started 0-2 in conference play, and we can't be okay with that. All right, and so it's up to us, nobody outside of this room, you know, to fix it. Now, we don't know where this thing's going. Right, these are tough teams we're playing. This is a tough league this year, but I am proud of the response, that the guys have had, but we don't want to have blinders on and think that we have it all figured out. It's a process that we have to go about every single day that we come into the gym, and we come in there together. The focus has to be there, and the intensity with which you prep, has to be there. And I think the guys certainly are understanding of that, now. And it's hard when you have Joe coming back and Sean coming back and they're trying to get their own games going, right? And then all of a sudden you're thrown right into the fire and it's conference play. Like, that's not an easy thing to do, to figure your own self out and still try to help the team, because the roles aren't necessarily established. And I think, as we get further away from it, the better it'll get, right? And I think, for us, as long as we continue to have the intensity and the focus that our guys have shown recently, we'll get better. We'll continue to improve. And that's ultimately the goal, is we want this team to be playing its best basketball, as we approach March and get to the end of the year.
Coach, it feels like you guys are starting to develop an identity on the defensive end. How would you kind of describe the team's identity right now?
Yeah, we want to swarm, I think that's something that we want to do in the half court. We want to force hard shots. We want to protect our rim, and I think you saw that tonight. There was certainly evidence of that, when we've been at our best. And then we're not a team that leaves threes. Go in the non-conference, the 3-point percentage for our opponents was at 29. Well, obviously the first two games it wasn't there, right? I think it was 54, and I can't remember exactly what GW shot, but it was a high number. And so, not something that we're going to be okay with, right? And that hadn't been who we were so far this season. And so I think, defending the three is always going to be, a huge thing in college basketball, because teams use it. It's just something that you have to pay attention to.
You're able to play Tubby a lot at like the backup five, even though he's sort of undersized compared to some other guys in small ball lineups like that. What does the versatility and variety on offense look like, and then the athleticism he provides on defense?
Yeah, he's so quick. He could switch on to smaller guys, and you saw him do that today, right? He can guard bigger guys, in the paint, especially when we get help to him. And that's something that we have to do, against certain teams. We've had to double, at times. But, Tubby's just an elite athlete, elite player, and his best basketball is ahead of him. And so we want to continue to use his gifts, that he has, to help our team. And he's like you were mentioning about the work, right? He's a tremendous worker.
And then when he's on offense, it seems like you're able to play more of a 5-out or 4-out offense. What does that look like? Yeah,
he's setting screens out there, but I wouldn't necessarily call it 5-out. We do have 5-out offenses. We haven't run it a ton, here at VCU just yet. But, he's got the ability to drive. He's only going to get better at that, as he gets deeper into his career. But, he's certainly an important player for us, on both sides.
Last one.
Coach, you were talking about Toby Law. He was like, have to wait for shots sometimes or wait for the blocks. Do you have to coach him differently about just how much of an elite athlete he is?
I don't know about differently. It's just coach him as he is, right, and use his gifts. And so, what we can't do, it's almost like it's like a guy on offense searching for the highlight play, right? You could do that on defense too, and he was kind of doing that at times, where he would wait for the guy just because he knew he could go there and jump and block it. Well, that's not what we need you to do. We need you to get your butt over there and put your body in front of the guy and still block it, but now everybody else knows what you're doing, and we can account for your man being free. And so he's a great learner and a great listener, and he never wants to let the team down. And he's not the only one in that regard, and so that's a great trait that we all want to have, and being there for your team and learning, as we go together.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.